What if I told you that McLaren's back-to-back championships wins in 2024 and 25 aren't actually their first rodeo? In fact, the last time they pulled this off, it involved two of the most legendary drivers in Formula One history locked in a rivalry so intense it nearly destroyed both their careers. I'm talking about time when McLaren didn't need higher rules to manage the drivers, because back then it was pure, unfiltered warfare on track. By the end of this video, you'll understand why what we are seeing today is nothing compared to the absolute chaos of 1988 and 89. Welcome, I'm Gridmaster, and if you're a Formula 1 fan who loves digging deep into the sport's most incredible stories, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because we're about to take you on a journey through McLaren's most dominant and controversial era. Last week, at the Singaparure Grand Prix, McLaren officially secured their second consecutive Constructors Championship, confirming what many had suspected for months. They're back at the top of Formula 1. But here's what's fascinating. This isn't McLaren's first time winning back-to-back titles in sequence. In fact, they are the second most successful team in Formula 1 history with 9 Constructor Champions, trailing only Ferrari 15 titles and ahead of Williams' 8. However, the way they are winning now with their controversial papaya rules that prioritize team harmony over pure competition is a far cry from how they dominated the sport over 35 years ago. Back then, McLaren was home to the most intense, bitter, and legendary rivalry Formula 1 has ever seen. Today, we're going to explore McLaren's incredible journey from glory to disaster and back to glory again, and compare their current dominance with their most successful period ever, when Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost turned the McLaren garage into a battlefield that captivated the entire world. To understand where McLaren is today, we need to go back to their golden era of the dominant 80s and the first years of the 90s. In the late 90s, they won the 98 Constructors title with Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. This was when Mika Hakkinen brought in back-to-back Drivers' Championships in 98 and 99, defeating the legend Michael Schumacher. And the later 2000s, when the team became home to some of the most iconic drivers in the sport's history: Kimi Raikkonen, Juan Pablo Montoya, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, and Jenson Button. During this period, McLaren's iconic silver and black livery, powered by Mercedes engines, became synonymous with speed and innovation. But then, in 2014, came the decision that would haunt them for years since, switching from Mercedes to Honda engines. What followed were arguably the worst seasons in McLaren's illustrious history. In 2015, 16, and 17, when they found themselves falling to 9th in the Constructors' Championship, a humiliating fall from grace from a team that had once dominated the sport. Fernando Alonso's frustrated radio messages became memes, and many wondered if McLaren would ever recover. Enter Zac Brown era. The team shut down the Honda partnership and started using Renault engines with great improvements. Andrea Stella joined the team later, and since 2019, McLaren has experienced a remarkable renaissance. The team slowly climbed back up the grid, rediscovering their winning ways with Mercedes engines from 2021 on, and building the foundation for what would become their 2024 and 2025 championship campaigns. Their current success is built on incredible technical innovations, particularly their revolutionary brake cooling system that gives them a significant advantage over their competitors and the young and very fast drivers Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. But it's also marked by something that would have never been unthinkable during their previous championship era, the papaya rules. Despite their mechanical and technical superiority, McLaren's current approach to managing their drivers has generated significant controversy among fans. The papaya rules prioritize team harmony over pure competition, often requiring drivers to swap positions or follow unclear racing guidelines that many argue remove the excitement and competitiveness from races. We've seen this play out multiple times, but the incident that most outraged fans occurred at Monza when McLaren asked Oscar Piastri to give back a position to Lando Norris after the team's own pit stop error. This approach represents a stark contrast to how the team operated during their last period of back-to-back championships. The last time McLaren won consecutive championships was in 1988 and 89, and the drivers responsible couldn't have been more different from today's managed approach. We're talking about Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, two legends who turned their McLaren cockpits into weapons in the most intense rivalry Formula One has ever witnessed. This wasn't about Papaya rules. This was pure, unfiltered competition that bordered on warfare. Let's talk about dominance. In 1988, McLaren won 15 out of 16 races that season. The only race they didn't win? Brazilian Grand Prix, the first race of the year, and only because Jean-Louis Chesler, driving a Williams, crashed into Ayrton Senna while the Brazilian was lapping him for the second time. The car responsible for this dominance was the legendary McLaren MP4-4, followed by the MP4-5 in 1989. These weren't just cars, they were engineering masterpieces. The MP4-4, with this turbocharged V8 engine, represented the absolute pinnacle of automotive engineering at the time. 1988 marked Ayrton Senna's arrival at McLaren's from Lotus, where he would partner with the already two-time world champion Alain Prost. Prost, known as the Professor for his surgical clean and intelligent driving style, quickly felt the pressure from Senna, who had debuted in Formula One just 3 years earlier in '85. Senna won the '88 championship, claiming 8 victories in a single season, breaking the previous records of 7 wins held by both Prost and Jim Clark. But it wasn't just the numbers that made this partnership explosive. It was the fundamental differences between these two racing legends. From the very beginning, there was tension. Prost suspected that Honda, McLaren's new engine supplier, was favoring Senna. Honda had a strong connection with the Brazilian driver, and Prost felt like he was being sidelined within his own team. This suspicion would only grow stronger as the rivalry intensified. The driving styles and personalities of the two drivers were completely different, creating an atmosphere of distrust that would eventually explode into one of the most dramatic chapters in Formula One history. Apart from one incident where Senna squeezed Prost almost into the wall at Estoril during the Portuguese Grand Prix, the '88 season was relatively calm on surface. But beneath that calm exterior, the tension between the Professor and Senna's assassin competitive instinct was building. The climax of the '88 season came at the Japanese Grand Prix, and it perfectly encapsulated everything that made Senna special. At the start of the race, Senna's car died on the grid. From 14th position, he embarked on one of the most fantastic recovery drives in Formula One history. In the rain, where Senna was absolutely untouchable, he carved through the field like a starving beast. One by one, he picked off his competitors until he reached Prost. Then, in conditions where most drivers could barely see the track, Senna overtook the Professor and went on to win the race and claim the '88 World Championship. This wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. Senna had announced himself as a force of nature that couldn't be contained by conventional racing wisdom. In 1989, the rivalry between these two legends reached a completely new level. Two of the best drivers in the sport's history were now locked in epic battles that would define Formula One for generations to come. The explosion came at the San Marino Grand Prix. Senna and Prost had a gentleman's agreement not to attack each other at the start and first lap to maintain McLaren's dominance and maximize their chances of victory. At Imola, the start proceeded normally, but after a restart, Senna dove to take Prost's position at the front. Prost accused Senna of disloyalty. Senna defended himself, saying the agreement only applied to the initial start. From that moment, their relationship, already on thin ice, completely soared. Prost was furious at the end of the race, declaring that he had only been overtaken because he believed he was dealing with a man of his word. The situation got so out of control that Ron Dennis had to intervene, locking both drivers in a room and giving them a general telling off. Later, at the Monaco Grand Prix, Prost reportedly told the press that Ayrton Senna had cried during the closed-door meeting with Ron Dennis. This was the final straw that left both the McLaren boss and Senna furious. It was the point of no return. By the end of that season, Prost would leave McLaren to race for Ferrari in 1990. The rivalry of the 1989 season reached its climax once again at the Japanese Grand Prix. Senna started from pole position, but Prost got a good start and took the lead. Late in the race, Senna caught up to Prost and attempted to overtake. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the most controversial scenes in Formula 1 history. Whether deliberate or not, Prost and Senna collided and went off track. The French driver retired from the race, but Senna managed to return to the track with the help from the marshals. Senna then produced an anthological recovery drive to finish in first position. Later, he would be disqualified by Jean-Marie Balestre for not returning to the track at the same point where he left during the collision with Prost, accused of cutting a chicane. By the way, if Senna had done what Balestre wanted, he would have returned against traffic. The rule was literally interpreted in a questionable manner by the FIA godfather, and the championship ended there with Prost as a champion. Ayrton Senna was outraged. Prost said he was upset by the way the race was decided and went to Senna's motorhome to compliment him. But Senna refused to speak with Prost. In a statement to an Italian newspaper, Prost commented on the episode saying, quote, "I wanted to end the championship in a civilized manner, but he turned his back. Screw it." The whole thing took on an even bigger proportion when Senna accused Balestre of corruption and declared he would no longer race. Balestre demanded a retraction, which Senna eventually made by letter, reportedly after Ron Dennis repeatedly begged him to do so. This was a championship climax very, very different from what we have seen with McLaren this year, contrasting dramatically with the Papaya Rules. It was more like Marlboro Rules, Wild West, dust, and the assassin desire for revenge and mutual humiliation. The rivalry continued into the 1990 season, Prost accusing his former teammate of lacking character when Senna had his payback and collided with Prost 200 km per hour on the first turn in the Japanese Grand Prix, ensuring Senna his second title. In '92, Senna accused Prost of acting like a coward by vetoing him as a teammate at Williams. The exchange of barbs and accusations continued through the following season. Reconciliation only came in the following years. In the last race of the '93 season, Senna would invite Prost to share the first step of the podium. Prost reportedly became Senna's confidant in a long phone conversation about suspected irregularities in Schumacher's Benetton in '94. Senna also moved Prost, who had become commentator, by describing a lap in his Williams, saying he missed Prost. McLaren has indeed done this before, winning back-to-back championships, but the way they've done it now, with the team orders and managed competition, is a world away from the pure, unfiltered warfare that Senna and Prost brought to the sport. Both approaches have their merits. Today's McLaren maximizes points and championships through strategic thinking. The '88 and '89 McLaren gave us some of the most dramatic and unforgettable moments in sporting history. If you want to know more details about this rivalry, marked by hatred, mutual admiration, and bloodthirst, let me know in the comments for a new video of this team. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Formula 1 history, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because there are so many more incredible stories from the sport's golden era that deserve to be told. Should modern Formula 1 embrace more of the old-school competitive fire, or are the Papaya Rules the smart way to win championships? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, see you soon, and keep those engines revving.